231.
Yes. Actually, go to 233. That's where you're going to look at the rubric. So I just want you to quickly look at the rubric on page 233 in your book. And it will talk about the things that we're looking for as we're writing our paper, all right? So the first thing that we're going to look at is in the focus organization component, all right? To the right of that, evidence and elaboration, and to the right of that, language conventions. So there are a few things that I'm looking for a good paper. For instance, if you want to have an A, the expectation is that the introduction is engaging and reveals the thesis in a way that appeals to a reader. Facts, details, examples, and reasons progress logically. Transitional words and phrases are used to link separate ideas. And the conclusion leaves a strong impression on the reader. So that's the focus and organization of that paper. The evidence and elaboration support ideas with specific and relevant details and examples in the research. The tone of the text is formal and objective and uses vocabulary strategically and appropriately for the audience and purpose. Okay? The last part is language conventions. You consistently use standard English conventions of usage and mechanics. So you should have good grammar in your writing, and you should also check your conventions, capitalization, punctuation, all the good stuff. Are there questions on that part? All right, hold on for a second. There we go. All right. This particular part right here is talking about how to put your explanatory essay together, okay? In this part, it talks about, it's an acronym that says, get ties on. Now, normally we won't remember something like that, but if we look at the basic areas that they want us to focus on, it is very helpful, okay? So, get ties on, the process is get, which is the introduction, which means grab the attention of the reader, explain the topic that you're talking about, and then put in your thesis, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and start that over here. The first thing that we need to pay attention to is what factors lead people to criticize a society rather than simply accept it, all right? From there, we need to create our thesis. Our thesis is our driving force, and it helps us think about what we're going to be saying in the paper, all right? So, this is what I do. I take the paper, or I take the question, and I think about how I'm going to respond to that, all right? So, for instance, I reply using the question as part of the answer. So, I'm going to say something like, I believe that blank are factors that lead people to criticize a society rather than accept it, okay? So, let's think that out. What do you believe are factors in society that lead people to criticize it rather than accept it? What are some factors?
Freedom.
Having liberties. What else? Are there political, religious factors? Sometimes the two are together too, right? Okay, so that is one of the things that we need to pay attention to too, okay? So, I believe that, and you could put politics are factors that lead people to criticize their society rather than accept it. When you're writing a thesis, though, should you have I believe that? Don't get close-ups. Oh, you're putting it up.
Yeah.
No, we should not put I believe that in the paper, right? We need to leave that out. The reason why I put that up there, though, is it helps me formulate what I want to say. It is something that I believe in. It's my driving factor, okay? So, getting rid of this, I can easily say politics are factors that lead people to criticize a society rather than accept it. Now it makes sense, and there's no I, me, my. Should we have I, me, my in an explanatory formal essay?
Nah.
No, we should not. So we need to get rid of those. But this does help me think it out. All right? So now we're going to move into the first introductory paragraph. And the first introductory paragraph, where did I put that? Oh, I didn't do an example. Okay. The first introductory paragraph will go with this. So it is the get. So grab attention, explain, and then our thesis, which we just did, right? So if we're grabbing the attention of the reader, or whoever is maybe someone who's grading it, what are some attention grabbers? What are some ways to grab the attention of the reader? Start with a question. Add emotion. You could give background information. Could you say, start with something that's more current? Yeah, you could give an example. You could give a definition of something, right? So there's many ways that we can attack that. So I want you to think about your attention grabber. Generally, when I do an attention grabber, whatever I put up here, I want to kind of mimic at the bottom in the closure, right? So for instance, if I start with a question up here, what should I do at the end? Answer that question, maybe give another question. But if I start with a current time issue, I should end with that, right? So I want to start with something and use that as part of my closure later. Does that make sense? Okay, good. All right. In the explain part, what are we probably explaining? What the topic is about, right? So we need to explain what the essay is about. For instance, if we're talking about politics being the driving, or to cause people to criticize rather than accept it, right? We could talk about how politics are. Is there corruption in politics?
Yeah.
We could possibly talk about that. What are some other things that we could talk about with politics?
Yeah.
What are some things that we can talk about as far as our thesis goes?
Why people criticize it?
Why people criticize things. What are there different ways that people criticize things?
Yeah.
That could be a way to explain it, to start getting into the background information. So this explain is actually background information, definition of really getting to introduce the topic, right? This is where you're going to explain it before you get into the thesis. If you're not explaining what you're going to be talking about without saying, I'm going to be talking about today, right? We don't do that. Don't put that in, okay? So if you're using this correctly, it should be defining what's going on before you get into the thesis. Okay? All right. So then we're going to get into the body paragraphs. And the body paragraphs pretty much follow this format. You're going to start with the topic sentence. In this particular case, our topic sentence that we're going to start off with is going to be talking about Canterbury Tales. So the second body paragraph is going to talk about what?
Yeah.
Shakespeare's sister, right? Yeah. And then the third body paragraph is going to talk about what? The independent reading that you did a couple days ago. All right? So we're going to focus just on the first one and then kind of follow the format through, okay? So in our first body paragraph, I said we're going to talk about Canterbury Tales, right? So I put, and I want to make it as clear as possible what I'm talking about and who I'm talking about, right? So in the prologue of Canterbury Tales, comma, Chaucer says that the church is corrupt, right? Because or when, and then finish that line. We have our own reasons on why we think Chaucer said what he did, right? We're then going to go to identifying evidence. So in this case, we're looking for quotes. Ladies and gentlemen, are we taking quotes out of the book? We have to find quotes? Or is anything that we take out of the book quotes? Anything that we take out of the book is a quote, right? Whatever Chaucer says, he's writing is what he says. It's
Yeah.
what he believes.
Yeah.
Okay? So, then for the second line, when we're talking about evidence, on lines, blank through blank. Why do we need to put lines in there?
So we can go back and look at it.
And we need to, what to our evidence? Cite it. We need to cite our evidence. So we need to say where we got our stuff, right? So in the prologue, on lines blank through blank, Chaucer says, and you put in your quote. If you're going to cut off things, what are those 3 dots called that helps us take one set of ellipsis, okay, or ellipses if there's more than one. So you're going to take those to connect 2 different pieces that are really important to what you're trying to say, okay? So you can cite 2 different ways. So this is called in-text citation. If you put on lines blank through blank from the prologue of Canterbury Tales, comma, Chaucer says, comma, that is one way to cite. What is another way to cite your information?
Parentheses.
Parentheses. Okay? So you could say on lines blank through blank, Chaucer says, and then, or you could say, Chaucer says blank, and then at the end you're going to put in parentheses, comma, or parenthesis, Chaucer, and page number, parentheses. Okay? Are we clear with how to get the quote? All right. Then after that, we're going to explain or elaborate on the evidence. So that means we're going to explain what the quote means without saying this means. You can think this means or this is trying to say, but don't use that. Whatever you're trying to say, just put it in. Don't say this is what it means. Okay? You're trying to avoid matter of a fact type of wording. Okay? So simply explain the quote. And then finally, the last part is to connect. You're going to explain and connect to the thesis. So that means, can we please stop that, please? It says sum it up. So you are going to explain why this particular line supports what you said here, what your thesis said. You are constantly doing that throughout the whole entire time. Are there questions with that? All right, so we're going to do this with Shakespeare's Sister, and the same thing with the independent reading that we did also. How the topic sentence should be along in this format. For instance, in Shakespeare's Sister by Virginia Woolf, Virginia says that women should have the right to do anything that they want, period. That could be something that you would say, right? You would have to use evidence and utilizing your evidence log to find information that's going to be really important to make sure it connects to this. It can support it or go against it, but you have to go and explain that, right? On how it either supports or doesn't support what you said. Okay? All right, so the last part is the independent piece. Okay? I'm sorry. Let's go back to Shakespeare's Sister. So after you take the quote, you're going to explain the quote again. What does it mean? Virginia Woolf makes a strong point that women should be allowed to be actresses, or whatever quote that you took, explain that.
Did you point the other end?
Shh, please. And then finally connect back to that thesis. Virginia Woolf believes that the politics in their society stopped women from being able to do whatever they want, which is the reason why she criticized per government. Okay? Question? No? Okay. All right. The last one is for the independent reading. Again, whatever the title was here, what did the author say? You want to make sure that it makes a strong point to the thesis. You're going to choose a line, explain what that line means, and connect that line to your thesis, your point. How does it support where they are criticizing against the government or against the people rather than accepting what's going on? All right, last thing that you're doing is the closure. Just like we had said before, we're always going to restate our thesis. So if we talk about politics are factors that lead people to criticize their society rather than accept it, we need to say it in a different way this time. Maybe we'll talk about something specific, or maybe we'll turn it into changing the words a little bit, okay? After you restate your thesis, you're going to finish it up with a summary, and then just like short little points that you're trying to make, and then you can finally go back to your closure, which should match your attention grabber.
Yeah.
All right, that is pretty much it. Are there questions about what we're doing? Yes.
So that's the thesis, just in general, everybody.
This is open for you to write whatever you want to write. What do you think is the factor or factors that lead people to criticize rather than accept?
Oh, okay, so that's what I was like, that's the question.
Yep. All right, here's my expectation. Today is a work day. You will be working on this. You need to make sure that you are writing this down on paper. On Monday, it is due. And on Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday we'll have different things. Oh, I forgot to mention too, that Tuesdays and Wednesdays, or Tuesday and Wednesday next week are block days also.
Yay.
I don't know if you knew that.
Wait.
So it's 1-3-5 on Tuesday and 2-4-6 on Wednesday.
Let me get out. We don't go to school Thursday, right? Wait, what?
Yes, we go to school Thursday and Friday.
So-
But we have a lot of testing going on, and that's the reason why we have 2 block days.
So Tuesday and
2 block.
Tuesdays and Wednesdays. is
Tuesday,
block-
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So Tuesday and Thursday are the same. Wednesday and Friday are the same.
Oh, they're block days.
Correct.
Bro, that's 4 block days.
The rough, no, I take that back. Listen carefully. Your outline plan should be done on Monday. It should be right away on Monday, okay? And then you're working on it on Monday to finish the draft. And then on Tuesday or Wednesday for you guys, you will be finishing up. I'll do a glance over, or we'll have a peer check day where you guys are gonna look over your paper and somebody else's. We'll go over the checklist.
Let's do Monday.
I said the outline, which we did today,
Mm-hmm.
the get ties on, is due on Monday. The Tuesday, Wednesday block is when we're going to be doing the peer edit. And then the final paper should be done that day, but it's not due until our last day, which is Friday.
Okay.
Okay, but it has to be all done by then. This one does not have to be typed out because you're gonna be working on it and changing things, but you can type it out if you want to. All right? Terry,
So we can type out the final draft.
you can if you want to, yes. Okay? Questions? All right, so this time is working on the essay. If you have problems with the outline, you need some extra help on how you want to put things together, talk to me. I will be coming around checking up on you guys, all right?
Okay.
Good bitch.
You should watch